I'm expecting that we'll get an update today before the day is over. So by the end of business day, I'm expecting to know what Dewan's status is.
How important is it, especially with losing Deng? I mean, your numbers are like this. Like, I think you're going to suit up next to play. I mean, how important would it be to get him out there?
Well, you have to really go back in time to see how we prepared for this season. And if you just look at, and I'll use the number 5, you know, your point guard's your 1, your shooting guard's your 2, your big man is your 5 man. We had 4 of them. We had Dewan, and then Buka backing him up, and then Deng backing him up, and Rodney backing him up. So we were overloaded at the 5 position, so we decided to redshirt Rodney. And we needed to do that. Rodney, I think, has a great deal of potential. I think getting him in great physical shape for next season, him working on some of the skill parts of the game that I think he can definitely improve in. So we made that decision back in October, and then not knowing that Dewan's situation was going to materialize. When Dewan was no longer available, we lost a guy who we planned on not only him being a starter, but being a double-figure scorer and a double-figure rebounder, a double-double guy for us and an all-conference caliber player. Losing him has really hurt us. It's hurt us defensively. It's hurt us rebounding-wise. It's hurt us offensively. He's an efficient offensive player. He shoots over 50% from the field. What has transpired is Abuka Zundu's gotten a chance to not only start, but really be a focal point of the offense. And he's done very well, but without Rodney, now without Deng, and without Dewan, it's put an awful lot of pressure on Buka to stay in the game, and he's always been a little bit foul prone, and it's been a real challenge to keep a good solid rotation because of the limited numbers. I asked the coaches a question the other day, you know, who's our sub for Buka? And if I asked you guys, what would you say?
Don't mention Rodney Miller.
What? No, he's redshirting. That's not even a consideration. But who?
It's I guess Anthony Lawrence. I don't know. I mean,
See, here's the thing.
Yeah,
Sam
maybe
or
Sam.
Anthony. I don't know.
No, neither of those guys, because they're both already in the starting lineup. To rest Buka, you have to be able to, you know, the reason you have guys on the bench is so you can rest the guys who are playing. So if we're starting Chris Likes, DJ Vasiljevic, Anthony Lawrence, Sam Wardenberg, and Buka Zundu, when we sub with a Zach Johnson for Buka, that's a guard. That's not, you know, somebody who you consider a 5-man. Normal, if everything was the way we planned it, you know, Dewan would be the starter and Buka would be his backup, or the two of them would play together and we'd have Deng or Sam to back them up, which means then you can rotate them. You know, 2 guys start and 1 guy rotates for them. So a guy like Chris Likes and DJ Vasiljevic, they got Zach Johnson to rotate in for them. They can each get quality rest, but with us being as short-handed, Zach is actually subbing for all 5 guys. He's subbing for Buka, he's subbing for Sam, he's subbing for... And then we have a freshman like Anthony Mack, who's, you know, terrific kid, a hard worker, great student and everything, but he's a little bit behind in terms of experience and know-how and understanding what we're trying to do, and he's only 6'5", so he's not an alternative option for Buka.
And Rodney just isn't. I know he can improve. Obviously, they can all improve, but he's really not in a position where he could play this year.
Yeah, he could. Okay, so let's say, for example, Dewan becomes eligible today. That would be nice, and he plays on Wednesday. Well, that would completely reduce Rodney Miller's role because we'd have then Buka and Dewan to share that spot. Rodney would be back in the same position he was a year ago, playing 4 or 5 minutes a game. And when we made the decision, we told him, this is your role right now. And he was like, well, if I redshirt, what would it be? I said, well, Book is definitely graduating, Amp is definitely graduating, and Dewan is probably going to leave and turn pro. So it opens up a huge opportunity for you next year. And he said, well, I think I'd like to do that. So when this thing happened with Dewan, the question was, well, will Dewan miss 1 or 2 games? Will he miss 5, 6? We didn't know. So we didn't want to, activate Rodney and end up in a week moving him back to the third position, because unlike football, which I don't really understand, football you can play 4 games in redshirt no matter what. Our guys can play 1 minute and then can't redshirt. So you explain that to me.
Jim, I can't explain that to you, but I do have a question. You guys have 7 players who are basically averaging double-digit minutes, one of them being Dang. Like, you can't play with 6. Like, you just said Anthony can't get more minutes, probably. He doesn't understand everything. Like, where are you getting the minutes from if Dewan doesn't come back really soon?
This is by far the most challenging season I've ever had in coaching. My staff is really working hard to develop a strategy that we can effectively play at both ends of the floor. So from a defensive standpoint, we added a defense. We zoned the University of Pennsylvania. We did that 5 years ago or 4 years ago when we had a very inexperienced team. It was an older team, a very tall team, but not with a lot of players who had any starting experience. We had Rafael Acapajuri and Donovan Kirk and Eric Swope, and those guys were starting, playing a majority of the minutes. So we zoned because it was just a little easier to prepare and to keep them in position to do the things they needed to do. We're practicing that now, but we never intended to do this back in September or October, November. So we're not quite good enough yet at it. We'll see. We've had some very good practices leading up to Wednesday's game. Hopefully in Wednesday's game, we'll be able to play both man and zone, and it can be effective. Then at the offensive end, we've just lost so much scoring power. From last year's team, we lost Bruce and Lonnie and Jaquan. Think about the number of points they provided. And then we lost Miles Wilson, who we were planning on being a guy who could earn some quality minutes at the 3. And he was one of our better athletes, run and jump type athletes. So missing him. And now we're missing Dang's shot blocking ability and rebounding ability. There are just so many holes in that we have to fill. Are you okay?
Yeah, I don't know. I just need a drink.
We have so many holes, we got nobody to fill them.
Water.
Jim,
What
are you optimistic the news will be good for Dewan? I know, I'm just.
Am I optimistic the news will be good with Dewan? I would say we've just waited very patiently for the answer to this situation. I can't say I'm optimistic or pessimistic. Whatever the answer is, we'll just have to live with it and move forward.
If it is good news, how ready is he? Like, how much has he been able to practice? How much has he been able to be with you guys so that you could put him in Wednesday if it is good?
Yeah, he's practiced enough that he should be ready to go on Wednesday if he's cleared today.
What answer did your staff come up with that question that you're asking? Who's the
Well, the natural answer is, the sub for Booker is Sam Wardenberg. But when you say, well, Sam's already in the game, he's not a sub, he's a starter. Then the issue is, well, what do we do about that? Because if you guys have watched this enough to know, where does Booker score?
In the paint, down low,
And where does Sam score?
outside, little.
So you completely change. Your offense completely changes. Your looks completely change. Your teammates, what they're looking for, completely changes. And trying to play different styles just based on one substitution is very, very difficult. Right? And one of the things we wanted to do, planned on doing, was playing Anthony Lawrence totally at the 3. We wanted him to be our 3-man. We wanted him to be our Sheldon McClellan, our Davon Reed, our Lonnie Walker. And now he's bouncing between the 3 and the 4 and the 1 and just makes his job so much more challenging.
What's the team's spirit like? Lost 4 in a row. How do you keep them from getting too discouraged with all of this negative stuff that we're talking about?
Well, I think their spirits have been terrific. I mean, if you look at even Dewan, he's been terrific on the bench at our home games and cheering for his teammates and in practice, doing a good job. One of the things that's made it practice so good is our second unit of Dewan and Rodney and Cam McGusty and Anthony Mack, along with our walk-on Willie Harrington. That's a really good second unit, because Dewan is a terrific ACC player. Rodney's 7 feet tall and really good at scoring in around the basket. Cam McGusty is a terrific multi-purpose guard, and Anthony Mack can really shoot. So the competition in practice has been good. The spirit's been good. The preparation has been good. The only thing is that's not our team when the game begins. We only have those 7 guys, and it's a lot different.
Jim, you signed 2 players in November. What are you hopeful to add to that too, and look for spring and moving forward with what you're still doing?
I say this honestly, but also sarcastically. I'd like to add about 5 more guys. We need a lot of help. This is a very challenging season, both on the court and in recruiting. And the 2 kids we signed, I love. I think they'll be able to help us. But they're not enough. Dengak's out for 6 months. So if we lose Buka, who's playing great, we lose Dewan, we lose Anthony Lawrence, you got some huge shoes to fill. And you can't do that with just freshmen.
You have to find another Zach Johnson next year.
Well, right now my staff is really trying to identify guys in the 2019 senior class. Most of them have already signed. So the spring is going to be very, very important for us in the future of the basketball program.
When you speak on that, the future, have you felt that, I don't know if pressure is the right word, but that emphasis, have you felt that in your time here where you feel like this is a very important class? I know every year is important, but it seems like you're speaking with more emphasis in the 1 year.
Yeah, it's the circumstances that you deal with change every year. Our philosophy does not. The approach in, let's say, recruiting is to find the best student athlete basketball player that we can get that fit what we need. So if we go back 8 years, you're talking about a team, we only had one scholarship available to us. We had a lot of veteran players coming back. And a lot of them were juniors. The next year became the real challenge, not the first year. First of all, in the first year, we were going to have a very hard time signing anybody when the NCAA announced they were investigating the program because of violations from the previous coaching staff. The following year became very, very challenging because we had 5 seniors. We had Shane Larkin, who turned pro, and we had Bishop Daniels, who transferred out. That's 7 scholarships. That's why that next year we ended up with a bunch of big guys, Raphael Akabajuri, Donovan Kirk, Tanya Jakiri. Those guys, we had to make a lot of adjustments. We had to change our style of play. We had to be a zone team because we just couldn't match up with people. We kind of survived that year. We won, I think, 17 or 18 games and had a winning record, but we weren't what we anticipated being because we never anticipated losing 7 guys in 1 year. And we certainly didn't expect Shane Larkin to be 2 and done when he was ranked 118th coming out of high school. Had Shane stayed, we would have been a much, much better basketball team. Guys leave. You plan on recruiting to replace them. We did with Manu LeConte, Davon Reed. Those guys came in, did a really good job as freshmen, but they were still freshmen. And they weren't ready to handle the role of a Shane Larkin. We got better as we were able to recruit transfers like Angel Rodriguez and Sheldon McClellan, but they had a city year. So that 1 year, we were in a transition period. And that transition period was, hey, next year, we're going to be very good again. We'll have Angel, we'll have Sheldon. Davon will be a sophomore. Manu will be a sophomore. Tanya will be back. All of a sudden, you have the makings of a very good team again. So we're kind of in that position now. We're going through what'll be a very challenging season. Hopefully some guys will really develop. Hopefully we'll get Dang back and healthy. But if Dang comes back healthy and we've got Rodney and we have these 2 incoming freshmen and we get a couple of other guys, then things change.